So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim Love. I'm the CIO of ITWC, IT World Canada, and I'm your host for today's briefing and discussion. We call it 5 Ways to Prepare for the New World of Work in 2021. Now, we've got some great content for you today, but before we get started, let's take care of a few housekeeping items in there. As you come into the room, you're on mute. I assure you that will change later in the program. Don't worry about that. But for the moment, if you want to ask a question, there's a chat function. You should see at the side, you should be able to see the chat function on there. And if you can take a look at that and if you put anything in the chat, you can communicate with us. You can ask us questions even during while I'm talking or anything like that. And somebody's always paying attention to the chat. And please just join in. We'd love it to be as interactive as possible. Now, today's program is going to be divided into a couple of sections in there. You're going to hear from a panel of experts. You're going to see a brief presentation from our sponsor, LG, about the products they believe will be critical to you as you adjust your workforce in 2021. And the last part, the best is the best for last, we have the mics on camera, open discussion where you can ask questions about what you've heard. You can share your thoughts. You can talk about what's happening. You can simply comment on what you see as the challenges and opportunities in the new world of work. Now, we want to get everybody in there, but I have no idea how many people are out there. So, so we don't get a lot of people talking at once. We're going to ask you to use the chat function, and then we'll unmute you for there. So can everybody find the chat function? Everybody, you don't have to raise your hand or anything, but just take a look and put it in there. And if you want to put a chat in there right now, just say hi. That'd be great as well. In there. Oh, thank you. Good for you. Good stuff. Okay. So yeah, so please say hi and keep in touch as we go through this in there. So, thanks. This is great. Jump in there. This is great. Okay. So while you're watching the panel as well, because we're going to have this panel presentation and it's fabulous. Sorry, spoiler alert, it is really good. But while you're watching there, I'll be watching it with you, and, so please put your comments in there, and the panelists are there. They're watching as well in there. Now, onto the program, and I'll explain the dichotomy of the panel and the live panel in here. So in 2020, businesses pushed their teams to the limit. Remote work became a daily reality. I know for me and just about everybody else out there. Matter of fact, we had a recent North American study stated 41% of the America's workforce will continue to work remotely well into the spring. I'm projecting much further than that. And now concerns about security, collaboration, they may have just sort of drifted into the background as the IT teams just got it done and got people connected. But if you think the challenges of a distributed workforce have been solved, think again. I think there's still a long way to go, and hopefully we'll talk about some of those challenges. Now, 2021 is going to bring a whole new set of challenges as lockdowns and companies consider the hybrid options, working from home with plug and play options at the office. All kinds of different things are going to go into play into gear at that time. So, in the same way that people in the early days speculated about what remote work could look like, we now just have about as many opinions about what the look of a post-pandemic workforce could be. Now, we got some facts. With the right equipment, remote work does work. For a lot of people, there are challenges, and there's no doubt about that, and we'll talk about some of those today. Several organizations have already indicated they're not even returning to a brick and mortar stance. Even governments that occupy massive amounts of real estate, particularly in the capital cities, in the core of these cities, are saying, hey, they may not refill these office towers. I have a friend who's a CIO of a large government agency or department. They'll have a lot of staff, and they're saying, I don't know if we're coming back. Or will they try hoteling options? But they're going to provide, opportunities for people to have meetings, but probably still allow people to work primarily from home. So what is a business leader looking at this we will get out of this post-pandemic plan supposed to do? And that's where we came in. ITWC, with the help of LG, pulled together this panel of experts to share their thoughts on the workforce of 2021, and with a laser-like focus on actionable items that you can do to prepare. that panel happened just a few days ago, and we're going to offer you the highlights of that discussion. Now, why the highlights? Well, it's a time-crunched world, and we wanted to. We had an hour-long discussion. We pulled out the very best of that. And we're going to present that to you, and we wanted to make that just get that to you in a concise way, but we also wanted to make time for the real opportunity for discussion and interaction that might have been missing, and I've been missing, and other people have been missing in meetings that have happened since last March. So we're looking forward to a great discussion with you. We hope you'll join in on the chat. We hope you'll ask your questions, and the panelists are here so that they can answer your questions in real time. So if there are any questions, any insights you have, please use the chat function throughout this. Other than that, let's roll. Hi, I'm Jim Love. Thanks for joining this LG-sponsored panel discussion. Almost everyone who has a staff of more than 3 people understands that the workforce in 2021 is going to be a lot different than it's been. The transition to a remote workforce in 2020 was messy, and the transition into a post-lockdown world of work is likely going to be messy again. So business leaders better be looking at how they can prepare now. If you're on this panel, you already have some strong opinions how exactly about business should be doing that, and the kinds of things they can be considering as a plan. So to set up the discussion, let's first go across the panel. Introduce yourself. Tell me how your personal working posture has changed since March. Let's start with that. Mark, do you want to jump in first?
Hi, I'm Mark Saltzman. I'm a technology columnist and author. I like to call myself a technology evangelist, in fact, because I like preaching about the benefits of technology for work and play. So aside from not traveling to conventions and giving keynote speeches, everything else has been pretty much the same for me during COVID. For the last 26 years, I've been working from home as a freelance journalist and author. And then the only exception is that instead of traveling or also appearing in, on TV stations, which I usually do in person, it's all been remote.
Hi, I'm Paula Allen. I'm the global leader of research and total well-being at Morneau Shepell. And I focused a lot on workplace mental health and workplace strategies that help employee health and ultimately help work productivity. So this pandemic has been disruptive in a number of ways, but I must say, similar to Mark, there's been only a few things that have changed for me. We have an environment where we had a lot of flexible opportunity to work from home or in office, so it wasn't a huge transition. I haven't been traveling, which was a big change, but it's also sparked a lot of creativity. That it's essential in my role to collaborate with others and to brainstorm, and we found innovative ways to do that with the tools that we have because it was necessary.
Hi there, my name is Dan Rayo. I'm the Director of Product and Partner Management for the Endpoint business at CDW Canada. For us personally, unlike the others on our panel, my personal work and our company has changed dramatically through the pandemic. We were very much a company where we came to the office every day, several hundred of us, actually what was a very bright, nice, brand new office that we only took possession of several years before the pandemic started. But in March, we were all thrown to work from home. And so, yes, it's been a lot of growing over the last several months, but happy to say that our organization has definitely embraced it, and we are moving forward, and it will be that way for the continued future. So we just keep looking at tweaking it to make it better every day.
What a great panel! So let's get started. In our discussion, we're going to explore at least 5 ways we can start thinking about how to move forward with planning in 2021. Part 1 of this is don't just reopen the office, reinvent it. My first question is going to be, has COVID really changed the business models for so many organizations? Do they need to reinvent what they're doing in the workforce?
The biggest transition is not necessarily the work model, but definitely coworker engagement, the tools and capabilities that they have. The biggest change is just making sure that everybody is not only enabled with technology, but knows how to use it. Because at the end of the day, taking all the technology home and not having an IT person that you can just run over and talk to and figure out how to get something working, you have to know how to do that, because you cannot be as productive at home if you don't have that technology enablement. So while the work model is very similar, the way we engage with the various departments of the organization, with our customers, with our partners, it's all generally the same, but we're now doing it all from home using a webcam and a microphone and a computer. And we have to know, or all the employees have to know, how everything works to make sure that capability and effectiveness can continue on in this new work from home world.
Yeah, I have to agree with Dan. On one hand, the tools are probably the same, right? We obviously technology is a wonderful tool to get your work done, but it's the environment that has changed and the other sort of influences around you. So having to juggle your personal and professional life under one roof has been a big challenge for many, especially those who haven't, they weren't forced to, they didn't have to do this beforehand.
It really had us wake up and not take things for granted. So I think a lot of, and we have millions of examples of large organizations, of small organizations who have taken the current state for granted and ended up out of business as a result, or not been able to be competitive, or being taken over by other disruptors. So it really caused us to have a pause in terms of how do we relate to our clients? What's important to our customer and our customer service? How do we support our employees? This has probably been the watershed moment for us to really look at what's required in order for our people, our employees, the engine of our companies, to be productive and to do so in a sustainable way.
But if we take the presumption that the business environment has changed dramatically, that we've seen a real substantial change, do we need to rethink the skills we have for our employees?
This pandemic, this whole work from home situation, everything has sort of accelerated things that needed to happen anyway. So if you're looking at the future of work, changes in terms of automation, requirements or skills, we need people to be more digitally savvy as a base skill, not a specialized skill. We need more people in cybersecurity. We need more people in many areas. And we can't just rely on the schools to pump people out fast enough, because while this change is happening, we also have a slow progression that certain other skills might become, or certain other industries might become obsolete. So the whole idea of mid-career reskilling has been an issue that has been on the table for a while, and this has put a spotlight on it.
How do you decide if you still need a brick and mortar office?
I think it really does come down to a uniqueness per company and deciding, what the benefit of having the building is. At the end of the day, we know that collaboration, innovation, discussions amongst coworkers to come up with great solutions to problems are probably still better done in person. So there's probably some necessity to have some locations where those groups can get together. But in terms of actually having a sea of cubicles and everyone and all of them populated, we may see that change a little bit. So the workforce and the amount of people in the office at an important time change.
But it might be a hybrid model where, you'll come in for some of that culture and some of those major projects and big collab opportunities. But otherwise, I think a lot of people see the benefits of working from home, avoiding that long and lengthy commute, being able to do more from home because of technology and use tools to stay in touch with colleagues. And then just when you need to, whether it's client meetings or, again, those big projects, then it makes sense maybe, but not full time, I think, is what we'll see going forward.
Yeah, I just like to add one point of caution as well. I think we've had some dress rehearsals for this already, and we have some learnings. And one of the learnings is that there is a risk of having the in-office culture and the not in office culture. So there's a certain group of people who are in the office all the time, and there's talk and communication and collaboration, and it leaves everyone else out. I don't think it's going to happen in the same way, but I think we do have to be mindful of some tensions. If you have a team, having the team in on specified days or on scheduled days so everybody can collaborate, because if I'm in the office and I'm still speaking to everybody on Zoom, it feels a little bit odd. I could have been doing that somewhere else. But if my coworkers are in at the same time, then you can get the benefit. So, figuring that out. And in certain situations and for certain employers, they might have individuals designated as 100% remote workers. And in that case, there does need to be that effort to make sure that those people remain engaged.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie, and first off, I want to thank you all very much for joining today's Fireside Chat. I hope you're finding some great new tricks and tips to apply and adapt to this new world of work that we are starting to get pretty comfortable with, and is rapidly shaping the future of workplaces too. Today's event is made possible by a partnership with LG Business Solutions, so I would love to take a few moments to show you some of the key features of the LG Gram for Business laptop series, how they are designed to fit into our evolving lifestyles, and more importantly, the shifting business landscape. Laptops are the most vital tool that businesses can supply to their employees, which is even more true when we're all working remotely together. That's why the Gram comes in 3 versatile sizes to suit different workflows: 14, 15, and 17 inches, each one weighing in at less than 3 pounds. In fact, the 17-inch Gram is the world's lightest 17-inch laptop. The 15-inch uses a capacitive touchscreen, and the 14-inch model has an extended battery life that lasts up to 18.5 hours. Very cool. On the topic of cool, the Gram for Business series uses a whisper quiet thermal solution that helps to keep things cool, quiet, and comfortable, while still allowing optimal performance from a powerful i7 processor and 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, you might think that a laptop this light would be brittle, but you would be dead wrong, because the Gram's full magnesium alloy chassis has passed the grueling 810G military standard tests with ease, meaning that the Gram is one tough cookie of a laptop on top of looking really, really pretty. To add to its elegant design, these PCs host a stunning 2560 by 1600 IPS display that can capture 99% of DCI-P3 for color accuracy and has a quick access reading mode that instantly reduces eye strain. Perfect for those long extended working sessions. Now, if you're unlike me and you're very quick at math, then you've already realized that this resolution gives the Gram a unique 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which not only makes for more screen space for multitasking and vertical scrolling, but it gives the 17-inch Gram for Business a form factor closer to a 15-inch laptop, meaning it can fit into spaces that a 17-inch laptop normally can't. Our computers have also become important windows that allow us to interact and collaborate with our colleagues in the virtual workplace. Just take this virtual event, for example. That's why the LG Gram for Business sports a crystal clear webcam and mic that I'm using right now, in fact, to help keep you and your team connected in the new normal. Now, I could talk your ear off all day about how awesome the LG Gram is, but let's head back to the event for some more conversation instead. If you have any questions about the product, my colleague Danielle will be a part of the Q&A session after this. Please enjoy the rest of the event, and remember, with LG, life's good.
Our next section is make sure workers have the technology to succeed. My first opening question to you is, do we need really new tools for the new workplace?
I think generally speaking, you don't need to break the bank on the latest, fastest, sleekest equipment for your employees to remain connected and securely connected. There's a lot of, there's a lot of technology. As long as you're connected over the cloud, got video communication, reliable Wi-Fi is obviously, you can't underscore the importance of that. Good audio. I don't think employers need to spend a lot of money on outfitting their remote employees with the latest and greatest. But I think for the most part, that you can get away with a lot of, as long as it's secure, you can get away with, good, just reliable equipment that could be easily serviced remotely as well.
It will be about keeping up with the technology. So again, we hope that COVID, there's an end in sight and there might be a scenario. But again, for these people that continually work from home, there will always be a necessity to make sure that the technology is good enough for what the requirement is today. I mean, we talk about video and being able to share that. You still need at least some level of technology to be able to make sure that that works fluidly. And then I have to say one more thing, which is all about the education. So one of the things is having the technology at home, But if the user is not well educated on how to use that technology, then we're also missing out on it as well too. And I know that organizations should spend at least some amount of time saying, hey, what is your environment at home? Is it enabled properly? Is it working the way you think it should be working? And there may be additional costs required from a support perspective, at least in the beginning, to make sure that people are truly leveraging technology. I mean, technology is only as good as how you actually use it. And so making sure that they actually are using it effectively is something to consider as well.
We'd be remiss if we didn't address security and mobility at the same time in there. Is there, and none of you are security experts of that, but what are your concerns? What are your ideas, and what are your thoughts on that?
One of the biggest challenges for companies to allow employees to work from home is securing the data and ensuring that you've got the same level of security at home as you do in the office, which is usually not the case. So some extra precautions have to be taken. There's got to be more, both from a software standpoint and maybe a hardware standpoint, as well as also protocols and going through checklists and educating employees on things like social engineering, which could be more likely to happen when you're in your own home environment. Your guard might be down. Companies can't take a risk on that. So there has to be a rethinking of securing down the company data and the system with everybody working from home.
It really has just sharpened our attention to something that has been a risk and will be a risk even if you have everybody back in the office. The only thing that I would say is your employees are human beings, and unfortunately, you say something once to a human being, the likelihood of them retaining it is pretty low. You have to repeat these messages because they are important messages. You have to make sure that the security aspect of your culture is as strong as any other aspect of your culture.
Next section, get the return to the office details right and make sure everybody knows the rules. Absolutely. You need a return to work plan in place. How do you get one? Does everyone have one?
I think number one, it's absolutely essential. There is some flexibility in terms of how you actually structure that in a way that is safe, but also meets your business needs. But having a plan is not an option. It truly is not an option. And communicating that clearly is the only way that plan is ever going to work and that people are going to feel that you're responsible as an employer. But the more you can engage the people who are going to be the most impacted, number one, your plan is going to be stronger. Number two, it's going to be more realistic and sustainable. And number three, people are going to accept it more.
I want to leave us on a good note. Are there things that we've taken from this? Is there a COVID silver lining? Are there things that we've taken that are good that we'd like to keep as we go into the reopening and go back to whatever that new normal or new environment is going to be?
It was a reality check for us that helped us realize what our priorities are. One of the strongest priorities that's come to the forefront is employers really focusing in a very deep and meaningful way on the mental health and well-being of their people. I think the other thing is that employers are recognizing the value of flexibility, the gratitude, the engagement, the fact that so many employees are saying, well, this flexibility that I have as a result of this situation is something that is working for me. And again, we've always known, but it hasn't really come to the forefront of our awareness that flexibility ends up getting the best out of people. It builds engagement, it reduces stress, it helps foster creativity, and it's respectful. So I think we're a lot smarter, we're a lot more compassionate, we're a lot more resilient, and we understand what matters, and we understand that we can act on what matters much more quickly than we ever thought.
It's proven that there are definitely benefits of this new work from home scenario that we have. And, to the point about, it's probably not going to go back to the way it was before. Ultimately, each company is going to have to make that decision, but we know at least that it works. We know that technology is enabled, that coworkers can be productive at home, they can still manage their personal lives and get things done, and the organization can still make progress with their own objectives in the marketplace.
100%. If there is a silver lining to COVID, I love, first of all, what Paula said about shining a light on mental health for employees. It's never been discussed more, and I think it's fantastic. And going forward, hopefully, it will continue to be a key consideration among employers as we come out of this. But I love the point about, COVID has accelerated our adoption of technology for business. And I've been a huge proponent of working from home for a couple of decades now. But based on the openness of the employer, they're going to embrace what their employee wants in order to better the company as a whole.
And that's a wrap. Our job, panelists, thank Mark, Paula, Daniel. Our job was to inspire a discussion. You guys did that. And I'm looking forward to the next part of this where we have the open discussion. Thank you so much. I mean that sincerely. It's been great listening to you do this, and just an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm back. Kind of an interesting thing, having a chat about yourself while you're going on there. But I think that this way of putting the panel together is just great. But they are here for real as well. So it's time for us to open that part of the discussion. A reminder: you'll need to use the chat for us to unmute you if you want to ask a question. And we'd love you to ask your question yourself. So please, but if you get embarrassed by that or anything, you don't want to turn your camera on, you don't want to ask a question, just yell pass and we'll read the question for you. Now, while you're working on those questions in there, and I know I sat through the panel and I already started to get some questions and things that I wanted to talk more about as well. Let me reintroduce some of the panelists who are here with us live to answer the questions. We have technology evangelist Mark Saltzman. Mark's out there. Mark, and I guarantee he has been working from home for 20 years. He's never left that chair in all the time I've known him. We got Daniel Rayo. He's the Director of Product and Partner Management at CDW Canada in there. And Paula Allen, she's the Senior VP of Research Analytics and Innovation at Morneau Shepell. And we have a new guest with us, Danielle Chen, National Corporate Sales Manager from LG Business Solutions. And she's with us in the event we have any technical questions about some of the tools, and she's joined us for this specifically for today. So this is great. So we're going to open up to the panel. I want to start out with a poll, and we're just going to get everybody just to get you leaning forward, and please put there. And there's a comment there, but that we ended on a mental health piece in there. I just want to say that you'll see this in the poll to be one of the questions, but big shout out to this is Let's Talk Day, so it's an important part of something we need to keep in our mind as well. But let's start with a poll. As a reflection of there, and we'll see what's your greatest current challenge with your workforce, and hopefully some of it will echo in there. But if you have another challenge that's not on here, then put it into the chat. We'd love to hear it. So is it equipping and supporting your team in the remote office? We heard some of that in there. The maintaining a sense of cohesiveness to keep our corporate culture alive. Yep. Security issues in remote offices. Yep. Is that it? Maintaining and monitoring attendance, vacation, and productivity, or employee health and morale? Those are the ones we picked. Like I said, if there's another one that you think that's in there, then please enter it in the chat. We'd love to hear it. The hosts and the panelists can't vote, so we'll wait for the audience in there, and we'll get the poll up there as soon as we get the answers in. So just jump in, pick one of them, or let us know what you've got in there. So there you go. Okay. So I feel like I should do some sort of drum roll in there while we're getting the poll in there. So while the poll's coming in, I'm going to ask my panelists, what was the thing that surprised you you went through the panel? What was the thing in the conversation that surprised you in there? Oh, and our poll results are coming up, so we can talk about the poll as well as it comes in. So jump in and you can comment on either one of those. So Mark, do you want to just unmute and just take it? What do you think of the poll results in there?
Sorry, I didn't look at the poll results yet, but I'll answer your first question if that's okay. I closed it because I wasn't eligible to vote, but I want to read the results when they're all in. But to answer your question about what surprised me, I think, I've been on several panels over the years, and often there's conflicting views, and which is healthy. I think actually that makes for a good panel. But interestingly, with Dan and Paula and I think we were largely on the same page across all topics, and we each have our own specialties. I've never run a business or worked out of my home and that kind of thing. But I think when it comes to one thing that didn't make the cut that I would just want to shine a quick light on is we talked a lot about mental health, which is a fantastic discussion, but also keep in mind when you're working from home to also consider your physical health, specifically ergonomically speaking. When you're working with your technology at home, there are extra challenges that might not be there at the office. So just a quick little checklist, and I know Paula and Dan and I are on the same page on this, is make sure that you are sitting, properly at a desk or at a table, not reclining on a couch or in bed, because that's going to put some unnecessary wear and tear on your body. Definitely have adequate lighting so you're not squinting, so reducing the odds of having any kind of headaches. Take frequent breaks. Make sure you've got a good chair with lower back support, good lumbar support, instead of sitting on, like, say, a bar stool at a kitchen island. That might be fine in short bursts, but if you're going to be working several hours a day, keep these kinds of considerations in mind. You make sure your monitor is right in front of you. And if you are using a desktop or a laptop, like the LG Gram, but connected to an external monitor, make sure you're not looking to the side based on your layout. Always look straight on to, reduce any wear and tear on your neck. And just that kind of thing. And again, take frequent breaks. Go outside for a walk, and if you like, leave your phone behind just for 5 or 10 minutes to clear your head, which ties into mental health. But I think that's something we were all on the same page about as well, is to also consider your physical health while you're working from home.
Yeah, I think it's a good point in there. I actually had got new glasses, especially so I aimed at the screen, and because I was getting pains in my neck in there. And somebody else added a good point about ergonomics, and people are obviously concerned about that hit the point in there. Paula, do you want to jump in? What surprised you from the panel? Then we will get to these poll results, but I want to get that. What was your reflection on that panel, and having seen yourself again?
Well, pretty similar to what Mark said. We looked at it, and we came from a number of different perspectives. But at the end of the day, there are different facets of this. There is security, there is ergonomics, there is mental health, there is employee engagement, there is productivity. There's so many different facets of this, and that I hope that doesn't feel overwhelming for employers, because it certainly can. I found the employers that are the most successful are the ones that just say, what's best for my people? How can I support people in the best way? And then you end up prioritizing very well. And once you have that, you also can consider what's best for your business, such as the security, et cetera. But believe you me, it's very important for your people as well. That nobody wants to be the one who actually, triggers a phishing attack. Nobody wants to be the one who has a breach. Nobody wants to be the one who doesn't have the knowledge in order to do their job in a safe, secure, and productive way. So again, all things lead back to what's best for my people and how they're doing. And I have a couple of comments on the poll results as well that kind of built on that.
We'll circle around back onto the poll results. Dan, you're out there. So, what's it? I never know what to call you, Daniel or Dan, but with Danielle being there, we're going to go with Dan for the rest of this. So no matter what you want. So Dan, what do you think? What surprised you looking back at the poll, at that whole hour that we spent on this?
Yeah, the most surprising thing is that you would think that almost a year into this, everybody would have it all figured out. And that's just the reality of that. There is a complexity to this work from home environment, the changes that, the coworkers across all of the organizations that we work with, including our own, have faced. And I think there's still, to Mark's points and Paula's point, there's still opportunity to optimize the environment within, that the employees are leveraging, and there will be a continued evolution of it, right? It's not going to be one of those scenarios where, we figured it out and then we're done, and it will be that way forever. There will be constant changes to technology. There'll be constant kind of evolve and educate the workforce. There'll be just the constant needs to optimize what everybody is leveraging today to be the best that they can be, whether they're, a hybrid work environment, they continue working from home, or whether they do end up at one time going back to the office. So I think there's just a huge complexity to a problem that may seem fairly straightforward, right? Work at home, how hard could that be? But there is just a complexity of that people just have to appreciate, and to think just leveraging the technology, thinking through the employees and their own mindset. Mark talked a little about mental health as well too. Like, there's just lots of different things that need to be discussed and brought forward to make sure that we truly are better in whatever the go forward environment may be.
Yeah, there. Danielle, do you want to? You saw the panel for the first time. Did you have any impressions that you'd like to share with us?
I think it's a great discussion, lots of points covered. And I agree with what Mark actually made a comment about, physical health and, in terms of ergo. Yes, I think, LG as a company, we always believe that technology has to work for people. So we have come up with, newer technology, newer products. And speak of ergo, we have an ergo monitor that we have produced, for our market. So
Oh, cool.
absolutely. Yes.
The Ergo monitor, it monitors.
Ergo monitor.
Oh, we'll have to chat more about that for sure. That's
Absolutely. Yes.
cool. Yeah, because I'm like I said, I will say that I might lean to the technical more, and I lean to my friends who come back to me and say you got to think about the people issues. The ergonomic issue is the one that most leapt out at me. I went, man, I didn't think about it until I'd been in this chair for 3 days, and I realized I had to get a good office chair in my home office, or my back was going to go. I mean, and the whole thing. Anyway, a lot more talk on that. Let's talk about, and we're going to get to your questions here. Thank you so much. They're coming in, and it's just great in there. So please keep the questions coming. We'll get back to it. I want to talk about this poll because I think this is what the audience is thinking about when they talk about their greatest challenge in there. I'm interested to see that the two things that are the top on this are people issues. Cohesiveness to keep corporate culture and employee mental health and morale. Panel, do you want to jump in? Does anybody want to jump in with and talk about the poll results?
Well, that was my exact observation as well, that there are people issues, and the two of them are very related. Having people feel that sense of connection and belonging, having them not feel isolated in work, is very related to employee mental health and morale. And I think one of the things that people need to remind themselves of is that the way things were in the workplace in terms of that cohesiveness and sense of belonging wasn't perfect. I mean, some of our research said that people were starting to feel a sense of isolation at work for various reasons: pace, stress, kind of work setups where it was an open table and everybody had earphones on. So this is an opportunity for us to actually think about it a little bit more and be better than we were before. Not necessarily aim to be as we were before, but take the realization of how important this is and do something about it.
Yeah, great. Anybody else with a quick one? I want to go to the questions. So anybody got a quick comment on the panel, and then we'll poll panel.
Yeah, sure. If I can just jump in, I think just having, security on the list, as you put it there, but having it the lowest on the list, there's some cause for concern. I mean, at the end of the day, security and the data that we now have in our homes or now have access to from our homes is a critical, point of the company, and we have to be careful of that data. So I think just making sure that it does come to the forefront and that there is security that's in a conscious of the employees at home and their environment at home, but also then for the organizations themselves. I mean, they have to be ready to equip their employees with security features to make sure that that data that now is, being viewed from home is still protected in that environment.
Yeah, and people always ask me as a CIO, what keeps you up at night? Security. It's the only thing that keeps me up at night. Sorry, I don't need an alarm clock. I wake up in the middle of the night screaming. So yeah, so the security being low is an issue, but that's something we can do in there. So and we got some other keeping up with the demand for remote employees using laptops has been difficult because of the overall supply challenges. Absolutely, thank you, Jason. That great piece in there. Yeah, you got to come up with 1,000 laptops overnight. You want to start talking about new solutions in there, and Dan, we can probably add to that as we go through it here too. That's your end of the business. And obviously LG's end of the business, but getting enough equipment and getting it out to people is a huge challenge for many companies, or at least that they faced when the pandemic first started. Let's go into our questions.
Sorry, Jem, just quickly, I saw one of the questions or comments rather was about the problem with company morale while working from home. Just a quick thought. I've spoken to several colleagues over the past 11 months who traditionally worked in a corporate environment, an office environment, and they would have socials. They would, have after dinner drinks or something like that, or after work drinks. And many of them have told me it has just stopped. Like since the start of COVID, but it's like back to basics, and it's all, everybody's remote. And I think there's still room for socializing virtually. I'm sure, a lot of people don't want yet another Zoom call, but if you did have a cocktail hour, or you did have a contest, or some sort of way to break the ice, like, on a semi-regular basis, I think it's something that people can still look forward to, connect with colleagues on a more personal level, within reason, of course. And just, I think that shouldn't be neglected just because we're working remotely. There's got to be, there's got to be a way to split the difference.
Nice dovetail into our first question and to expand on that. So, and Evan, thank you for this. I'm just going to use first names on this. People want to shout out, they can put it in the comments. But so I save 2 hours a day in commuting by walking downstairs. Yeah, in the home office, there's your new commute, and it often means just 2 more hours of work and blurring office hours with home time. So the question is, what advice and resources can the panelists recommend to assist people in coping with this new work-life balance? Tech alone can't answer this. 100% agree to that one. So what advice can we offer people to help with the new work-life balance in there? Somebody want to jump in?
I could start.
I'm shocked. Is Paula's our no, Paula's our people person for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm just glad that you're having this discussion. So definitely want to support it. I think there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is, what is making it necessary for you to work those extra hours? And very often, things are very busy, and pandemic has made things very busy, but we've also found that people are not being as productive within the hour, within a unit of time as they were before. And there's many reasons for this. We found, people's mind wandering, anxiety popping in, other distractions, that's actually a bit of an issue. So the first thing I would do is address the source. For many, and our research has shown this, it is because of mental and emotional things, that we have anxiety, we have uncertainty. So dealing with that is important. For many others, it is really the structure of what's going on in your home. You have kids coming in or whatever. So, as much as possible, if you can build some structure with your children, like think about how a daycare functions or a school functions. There's a lot of structure. There's a lot of scheduling. Kids know what they can do at a certain time and know what they can't do at a certain time. So that can give a parent a little bit of a break, even if your child is doing their work beside you, but it's quiet time. And we can use some of the language that they use in daycares and schools. The other thing is to make sure that as a result of just having this day where 1 minute kind of blurs into another, that we're not just working, because we will have diminishing productivity and you will still need to work more and more hours. And that actually is sort of, part of the whole river of burnout. And I call it a river because you start, and then you continue down and can't come back if you don't pull yourself back early enough. It is so important for the human mind to have different experiences, a little bit of fun, a little bit of social connection, a different environment, a little bit of activity. And we, again, don't have a lot of structure right now. We have to self-impose that structure and almost schedule that time for ourselves. Again, just like we have to schedule it for healthy children.
Yeah, really, really good point. Any of the other panelists want to jump in on that? What advice can we give people to help them with coping with work-life balance? I'd agree. Take a walk, break up your work in there. It's so important. Get a different piece in there. So, yeah. Somebody's asking, this is being recorded, will it be available? Yes, I'm sure the recording will be available of this for other people to circulate this more widely. Anybody else from the panel want to jump in? Nope. Going once. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next question in there. So, Rob asked a question. It seems technology works very well when everyone's remote or when everyone's in the office. No one wants to go back to the terrible meetings where people in a meeting room, wait a minute, is this my staff writing this? No, sorry. No, nobody wants to go back to the terrible meetings where people in a meeting room all yell at a conference phone in the middle of the table. Oh my heavens, yeah. nobody, no, there's some things we don't want to go back to. So what challenges and solutions do you see for these hybrid situations? And Paula, you talked a little bit about this, but we can all jump in on this. What challenges and solutions do you see for the hybrid situations where workers are in the office and some are remote in there? So who wants to jump in?
I mean, I'll jump in and start. I mean, I think the reality is technology will continue to evolve, and while yelling may be a necessity for the current technology, things will evolve. Having people on video where you can actually see them is a little bit better, at least than being just on audio only. At least you know that they have presence there, and by virtue of having rooms in the office enabled from a video conferencing perspective, and now that people are much more familiar with the concept of video conferencing, having doing it from their home, just having them visibly present there, even if it's on a screen, I think should alleviate some of that. I mean, that's just one suggestion.
Great. No, that's great. And we still got questions coming in. Thank you so much for the audience. So anybody else want to jump in on that? Things we can do for hybrid situations. Certainly equipment is something you need to think out better, but also Paula, you talked about the ins and outs, and that really struck me, was this idea that there are people who are in and out of the organization. You have to manage those new types of meetings. I think that's going to be a challenge for us all.
Yeah, there's many layers to it. What you highlighted in terms of how we use technology is critical, because you could have, you don't only have meetings with your own team, you have meetings with people in other teams. So even if you do have that kind of structure that I've mentioned before, where everybody is in on a certain day and everybody is at home on a certain day, then that's not going to solve every single problem. But we have to be mindful of leaving people out and excluding them from things because they are not physically present. Like it's a mental thing. Like it doesn't have to be that way, but people default to doing what they've been doing all along. And if you're used to only including or considering, there's a birthday celebration and you're only considering the people who happen to be in that office at the same time, you're having an informal chat with 3 or 4 people and don't bring in the person that you could easily tap on and they're not in the office, you're creating damage, you're creating resentment, you're not building the best and getting the best from your people. So it's a very big deal, but it's not hard to do what's right. It's not hard to be inclusive, but for the fact that we have to be mindful that it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark and Dan, you just guys have built a brand new building. Before you got tossed into this, right? You're looking forward to the hybrid world? What are you thinking about in those terms to helping meet the challenges?
Yeah, when I talked about the suggestion of having video conferencing capabilities, that's one of the things we did enable in our office space. I mean, we have customers that are obviously across Canada. We have people that we engage with across North America and across the world, and so there's no chance of those people actually being in the office. So we do leverage that technology. And in our meeting rooms, we do actually have video conferencing tools and technology set up. And we make an effort in it, and there is a bit of an effort required to remind people to leverage the video technology. Again, it becomes a training scenario where people need to be trained, make sure they know how to use the technology. But we've definitely found that having people on video really does kind of bring them into the meeting. And so again, that's where the foundation of my recommendation is coming from, just from our own experience in having a video conferencing setup in the office. So again, it's something that companies just need to consider. And it, to Paula's point, it does depend on the scenario of who needs to be in the office when, and every company will have its own dynamic that they're just going to have to manage. So for some companies, it might not be a necessity. And for some who very much are critically need people to engage and work together, it may be of utmost importance and may be a priority within their IT budget.
Yeah, Danielle from LG, this has got to be right up your alley in terms of are there some technology solutions we should be knowing about or thinking about that make the hybrid situation work better?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Dan from CDW for many years, and I absolutely agree with what he said. So from a manufacturer, like LG, we always wanted to make sure that we study the market and we want to understand what customers are looking for, right? And I think from my own experience, I see a lot of customers coming and talk to me about this, the product designing. How can we make it easier for customers, for users, right, to improve the experience, right? This is, your working life, and then you're actually using as Is it as a consumer product? Is it as a commercial product? I think the blurring becomes, it's not very clear right now. It's not like a two separate divisions. So we've had a lot of success in the, in the retail market in terms of the Gram laptop. When it was introduced, it was actually exceeding the expectations, and in terms of how well it was received in the marketplace, because it's so easy to use. It's light. It's 18 hours with one battery charging, and you can do so many different things with just one portable thing. And you can, you work from home, you can maybe go upstairs, go downstairs, you carry this laptop. Sometimes you have kids in home and you want to go to a different place to work, right? You have this important phone calls, the Zoom meetings, right? So at the end of the day, I think from a technology perspective, we're committed. We're absolutely committed to the market, to our customers, to making it a lot easier to work with. That's our goal.
When you're booted around from place to place, the battery life is important.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about carrying that adapter with you, right? Yeah. So it is. I have actually two laptops. I have one for home. It's an LG brand, and I have one for work. So
good. Cool.
Amazing to have something easier to work with.
One question, I want to go on to Sean's question, and I'm going to pull back, and we got about 10 minutes. And this, thank you. The questions are coming in. This is just great. If we take a question in, by the way, if we get questions we haven't gotten to you in this, we'll find a way to get you the answer, and we'll find a way to communicate it with everybody from here. But Sean asks a question: working remotely and accessing data through a secure method, cloud, VPN, etc., assumes all information required daily by a remote employee is already digital. So how are companies providing access to paper records, and do you see the need to have these converted to digital data for secure access? Anybody want to jump in on that?
I can jump in on it. I think definitely there is for companies that still have paper data, this becomes one of the additional challenges in a work from home world, unfortunately. But there are solutions for it. I mean, at the end of the day, digitization of data has been an effort for many years now. And as companies move toward it, there's lots of great technology that will get you there. But unfortunately, it does require a little bit of effort, a little bit of investment to make it happen. But the technology is there. So I think, the reality from a business perspective, prioritize what's the information that needs to be in the hands of those people and focus on that first. So that's just purely from an efficiency perspective. But the technology is there, and it is about identifying those needs, getting the feedback from the coworkers that are at home, understanding what they need access to, and then building a plan to go after it. And it just may be an additional cost if you've not already got there. But the technology is absolutely available and relatively straightforward for you to be able to get that data in a digital form.
Like we've talked about on the panel, COVID simply accelerated our adoption of technology, and what was previously a nice to have became a need to have. A friend of mine is a family physician, and he has that classic, file cabinet behind the receptionist desk of all the paper files from all his patients. But by not going into the office, he had trouble, obviously, knowing who he was going to do a virtual visit with. So it quickly forced them at the start of the pandemic to work with a service to securely digitize all those patient documents using OCR, optical character recognition technology. So it helps with the data input, make it reliable. But it was one of those things that he kept putting off. And then something like this happened unexpectedly, and it forced, I think, many industries across the board to digitize all those paper records. And I think it will help us coming out of this, so long as it's secure. Just obviously, it really expedited this move to a paperless office, if you will.
Yeah,
just at one point, we're talking about a lot of security issues with technology. Think about the security issues by having people have sensitive information in paper files that could be damaged, people could walk away, that you could misfile and not be able to access them. So again, I think we're building an awareness that we can do better, and really digitizing some of those paper processes is just another way of doing better.
Great. I'm going to summarize one question because we're about 2 minutes on it there, but I do want to get it because came in various forms in here. Thoughts about staff that want to work remotely but want to leave the country and work from there, and other things about restrictions. Are there? How do we put in rules? Are there rules we should be putting in? Are there ways we should evaluate this? Paul, I'm going to start with you because you're the HR person in this, but we'll open it to the rest of the panel as well.
Well, this is the hot topic. And I think there's really caution on both sides, the employee side as well as the employer side. I mean, there's been situations where employees have made assumptions. And they said, well, if I could work anywhere, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go to Europe. My family is there and I'll be able to work. I'll adjust my hours so it doesn't impact anybody with time zones. And nobody will know, nobody will care. It should be okay because I'm not in the office already. That's not a wise thing to do. It is a conversation that needs to happen with your employer. If you're hired to be in a particular location, that's part of your employment contract. If you just leave, then your employer has some choices about how they deal with it. They might want you to come back at a certain point, and then it becomes much more difficult. But also employers are wanting to be flexible with people, but there's some very practical challenges. Do they have a business set up in the location where you want to be so they can manage payment and tax issues? What about benefits? What do you get in benefits in a different location? What about security? So sometimes when employers say pause or no, it's not just because they're wanting to be mean. There are some practical things that need to be worked through. So my message overall is nobody should make assumptions that this is going to be not an issue or should be okay. I think we're going through a transition period right now where we're figuring this out, and more things will be okay in the near future, I'm sure. But I wouldn't make any life-altering decisions of that source, of that magnitude, without having a really good conversation with my employer first.
Okay, so as I said, there goes my pandemic trip to Cuba in there. So yeah, no, but I think the mark of a great conversation is when it wraps up while it's still moving forward, and that's where we are. I'm going to give the panel a chance to wrap up. I'm going to ask our producer in the back end there to put the poll up. We're going to ask you some questions while we're doing our final wrap up on this. What you want to see? The workforce is constantly evolving. What topics do you want to hear? What further briefings would you like to discuss? We'll leave that up there, but I'm going to go back to my panel and let them wrap up 30 seconds each to just what they've taken away from this section in there. So Mark, do you want to start?
Sure. So obviously what happened pre-COVID is the same thing as happening in the middle of it right now. And that is tech is a wonderful tool to help you stay on your game, so long as it's secure. I'm a big fan of working remotely. And as we come out of this, if we see some sort of hybrid approach, or it's one of three options, right? You're back at the office, you're staying at home, or it's a bit of both. As long as it can be secured down, I think you can do more in less time from wherever you are most productive. I think we can only benefit from all of this. Instead of just surviving COVID, we could thrive through this and keep embracing the same tools that we've been using pre-pandemic, but in a more meaningful and flexible way.
Great, thank you. Dan.
Great. Well, number one, thank you very much to the audience for joining us. Thanks to LG for sponsoring this as well too. It's been a great chat. Really enjoyed talking with the panel and yourself, Jim, as well too. Again, coming from a technology perspective, we are just super excited about how technology can truly be leveraged to, make people or allow people to be as efficient as they were in the office. And even going forward, I think there's going to be lots of opportunity for technology to really prove that it is the enabler of good work progress moving forward, and just ultimately coworker well-being at the same time, right? Having the technology, being able to use that technology, leveraging education in front of you. I think we do have the luxury of being able to do many different jobs from home that if you look back years ago, that might not have been as simple. It's I hate to say it, it's great the pandemic happened in 2020, because if it happened in the 90s or the early 2000s, we might be in a different place. And so we have the luxury of technology where it is today, and it's only going to get better. So thanks everyone for participating.
Fabulous. And if we have those results, if you can put those results up there, that'd be great, Sophia, in there. Quick from you, Danielle, from LG. And thank you so much to LG and to you for being here and for sponsoring this in there. Any last words for everybody?
Yeah, sure. Very happy to be the sponsor. I think this is a very meaningful panel discussion, and personally, I've learned a lot. So thank you, Jim, Paula, Mark, Dan, and all the folks from ITWC to organize this event. Again, as I mentioned earlier, LG is very committed to providing the innovative technology and to making technology work for you, to make your life easier, such as the product that we just discussed today, right, the LG Gram. So I look forward to opening more dialogues with all of you, and we continue to evolve to exceeding the expectations. Thank you and stay well.
Thank you. Paula, last few seconds.
Let's not waste a good crisis. This has been a crisis. There's been many silver linings, but I think we realize all now that we don't need to mourn and seek going back to the way we were. This is an opportunity for us to do better in a lot of ways. Technology, people management, everything.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you to you. Thank to the panel. Thank you to LG for making this possible. We hope this has been great. Please talk. We'd love to hear from your audience. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. Send me notes. Tell me these things. Leave comments in here. You'll get a feedback. Please give us feedback. We want to do great stuff for you. Thanks for participating. And until the next time we see, I'm Jim Love from IT World Canada. See you next time.